everyone, this is Heather here with Treasured Hometown. Today I wanted to take a moment and show you all how to create one of these. It's a bulky weight crochet cardigan. It is a granny squares. So because I use bulky, the granny squares are actually quite larger. It does create a very nice warm feeling for it. And as you can tell, this one's actually quite a bit long. I find it to be more so the snuggle up on the couch cardigan. Now I did on this one sew buttons onto mine. If you're wishing to add buttons or any type of closure onto yours, I do recommend that you wait until you've finished your project and then go out to some sort of a craft store or something so you can measure the size based off of the gauge and everything to make sure you have the proper size buttons so that they fit through the openings onto the other side for the granny squares designs. And as a reminder, in every one of my videos, the links to all the items used within this pattern will be in the video description box below. And as soon as I do have a PDF version of this pattern available, the link will also be included in the video description for where you can go ahead and purchase one of those. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day. For this pattern, we're going to need a couple of supplies. First, we'll need a pair of scissors, simply cutting our yarns. We're going to be using a 8mm crochet hook to complete this project. For weaving in your ends, you can either use a darning needle, but I do suggest that you have a threader because of the weight of the yarn, trying to get it through the darning needle. I'm not that great with it, so I use a threader in order to put that through. Or another easy way I found too was I just used a 5mm crochet hook in order to get into the project and weave in the ends throughout the project. So that's another option. We're going to be using some crochet yarn. This is actually the Premier Bloom Chunky Yarn. It is a self-striping floral print. This one I use the color Tulip for it, and for the project altogether it'll end up using roughly around 1,400 yards in order to complete. So just keep that in mind whenever you do get your yarn. Look at the yards, and roughly around 1,400 yards. It is nice to get a little bit extra, you know, just in case you need that extra, your gauge is off, or you have to adjust for a slightly bigger size for yourself. You're going to want to go ahead and get a little bit extra just so you have it on hand. To start off for this pattern, what we're going to want to start with is a magic ring, but we want to leave our tail a little bit extra long on this one. So we're going to hold the tail end between our thumb and forefingers, wrap our yarn around our fingers, the working end towards you, and then we just kind of lay it away from your body. Take our crochet hook, and I like to do it, just stick your crochet hook between your two fingers, hook the working end of the yarn, and pull up a loop. And then from here, we're going to chain 3. Now for this first row, that chain 3 does in fact count as a double crochet stitch. Now going forward, what we're going to want to do is put 15 more double crochets into the magic ring. So we'll yarn over, go into the ring, pull up a loop. Now we have 3 loops on our hook. Yarn over, go through your first 2 loops, yarn over, and go through your last 2 loops. So there is 1, and now we want to do 14 more. Now before we close up, always a good idea, give it a count, make sure you have the correct amount. 8, 10, 12, 14, 15 plus our chain 3. Now take our tail end of our magic ring, and we want to close up the magic ring. But we don't want to pull it super tight. We're going to leave it open about the size where you can fit a quarter in between, in the center of it. Otherwise, if you pull it too tight, the squares end up looking disformed. And then we're going to want to insert our hook into the third chain of our first chain 3 of the round. And then I bring the tail end from the magic ring up so we can work it right into the middle of our yarn. And then we just slip stitch into there to join. And there we are with the end of round 1. Now for round 2, we're going to start and we're going to still work the tail end around through all the stitches that we're doing. It's just so it's easier. We don't have to really work to weave that in. We're going to chain 2. Now we're going to look at our row 1, and we're actually in the spaces between the double crochets, not the loops, right into the space between. We're going to do, it's a puff stitch, or because there's so much controversy of what the name of all these stitches is, it's actually half double crochet 3 together. So we're going to yarn over, go into the space, and pull up a loop. And we're going to pull them up to the height of that chain 2. I do like to use my finger to hold the yarn because sometimes it'll work tighter into it as we're going along, and you end up with a puff that's like maybe the height of 1 chain. So we did that once. Now we're going to yarn over again, go into this space, pull up another loop. Now we have 5 loops on our hook, yarn over again, go into the space, pull up a loop. Now here we got 7 loops on our hook. We're going to yarn over and go through all 7 loops, and then chain 1. And we're simply going to repeat that into each space going all the way around. We'll end up having a total of 16 of these throughout this entire round. And now here we're at the end. So we have our 16 little puffs in there, and we did our chain 1. Now we're going to join by looking at, here's our first little puff. There's 1, 2 chains. So here's the top of that first stitch. We're going to slip stitch right into there in order to join. And there we are with the end of round 2. For round 3, we're going to start this off. First, we're going to chain 2, and then we're going to work into this chain 1 stitch. So we're going to yarn over, go into that stitch, pull up a loop. Now we have 3 loops on our hook, go through our first 2 loops. Then we're going to yarn over, go into that same stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over and go through our first 2 loops. Now we have 3 loops left on our hook, and repeat, yarn over, go into the stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over and go through your first 2 loops. Now we have 4 loops on our hook, yarn over into the stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over and go through your first 2 loops. Now we have 5 loops on our hook, yarn over, go into the same stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over and go through your first 2 loops. Now here we have 6 loops on our hook, or we have also, if you look, the start of 5 double crochets. So essentially the stitch, we're double crocheting 5 together. So yarn over and pull through all 6 loops, and then chain 2. And we're just going to want to repeat this into each of the chain 1s in between our little puff stitches from our row 2. And we're going to do this all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, pull through all 6 loops, chain 2. All right, now that we're here at the end, what we're going to do from here is right here, the very top of your first double crochet 5 together, we're going to slip stitch right into that space in order to join. And there we are with the end of round 3. All right, and now for round 4, what we're doing is taking it from the circle and turning it into a square. So for our very first stitch, we're going to slip stitch into that chain 2 space. And then from here, we chain 3. And for this round, this chain 3 does in fact count as a stitch. Now we're going to want to do 2 more double crochets into that chain 2 space. And then from here, we simply chain 1. Now we're going to skip over to the next chain 2 space, and we're going to do 3 half double crochets. So yarn over, go into the space, pull up a loop, 3 loops on our hook. Unlike the double crochet, we're going to go through all 3 loops. All right, and so we're going to do that 2 more times. And then chain 1. Then into this next chain 2 space, we're going to put 3 double crochets. And then chain 1. Then into this next chain 2 space, we're going to form our first corner. So we're going to start with 3 treble crochets into there. So yarn over twice, go into the space, pull up a loop. So now we've got 4 loops on our hook. Yarn over and pull through your first 2 loops. Yarn over, pull through your next 2 loops. Yarn over and pull through your last 2 loops. So there's your first treble crochet. We're going to put 2 more into that same space. And then chain 2. And then we're going to put 3 more treble crochets into that same space. And then chain 1. So here, just to show you, we've started off. This space would be the other corner. We did 3 double crochets plus a chain 1, 3 half double crochets, a chain 1, 3 more double crochets, and then for our corner, 3 treble crochets, a chain 2, 3 more treble crochets, and then a chain 1. And so we're just going to repeat this going all the way around our entire piece. Three double crochets, a chain 1, 3 half double crochets, a chain 1, 3 double crochets, a chain 1, 3 treble crochets, chain 2, 3 more treble crochets, a chain 1. Now to let you see, we started, so it's starting to form up and take the circle into a square. And now that we're here at the end, we just did our last corner and chained 1. Now we're going to slip stitch into the 3rd chain of our first chain 3 of our round in order to join. And from there we can go ahead and tie off. And there is how we create our squares for our cardigan. Now for this pattern, we're going to need a total of 32 of these little squares made. So you can go ahead and pause the video, add it to a save, play later, so that you can easily find the video. And once you have all yours done, we can come right back and show you how to assemble all of these. Alright, now normally I would have the actual squares laid out for you, but because of the size of this one, I just drew a picture of all these squares. So if you think this is the very top of your shoulders, here is the front of the cardigan. So we have 5 coming down in a row, and then the back of 2 rows of 5 each. And then we have the arms, 2 rows of 3. What we're going to want to do is stitch these all together where the lines meet all along, and I'm going to use the slip stitch method in order to sew all of these together. And then once we have it sewn together like this, we're going to fold together the arms and slip stitch those together, both the arms first, and then we'll attach here and match up square to square along the sides to close it off. So give me one moment and I'll show you how to use the slip stitch method to sew the squares together. Alright, so here we are. We're going to go ahead and sew these 2 squares together. For this method, we're going to use our working end and we're going to lay it kind of between the 2 pieces because it's almost going to work in back of where we're stitching. Now we want to put our sides together. Now we had in the corners, we had the chain 2 space. So we're going to work in the, make sure we have our right sides facing towards you. We're going to work into that top loop, or we're going to call it the top loop because it's facing to you. We're going to insert our hook into there. And then onto the opposite square, we're going to work into that back loop, so the one farther away from us. Insert our hook into there. Now see, there's 3 loops on our hook. Going to yarn over and pull through all 3 loops, and we're going to repeat that going down the entire side of this. So top loop, back loop, pull through all 3. And this just creates a very nice seam, in my opinion. And now that we're at the end, we're going to work into that first chain of the chain 2 space for the corner. And now we've done down one side of a square. Now to add and continue going down, we'll take our next 2 squares and lay them out. And we're just going to continue just like we were. We start, there's the chain 2 space. Want to start in the chain 1, that would be along the side that you're working on. So top loop, same with the other. So here's this loop. And so we just create a nice seamless seam, and we can go ahead and continue going down through all of our spaces in order to stitch all of our squares together. And then like for this will probably be the back that I'm working on. Then for this seam, just come in, start your yarn, and continue right on down. So now that we have our entire cardigan all stitched together, what we're going to want to do is work on, if we were to put it up to us, it would be the right side opening front of the cardigan, and this is the very bottom. So we're going to start in this corner right here, and we want to attach our yarn. We're going to be doing basically just a back and forth granny stitch instead of normally working into a square. This is just going to make that opening little flap of our cardigan. So we're going to attach our yarn right into the corner. So this is actually attached. We had our 2 chains for the corner. So the chain 1 that would fit onto the side of the opening. And then we want to chain 3. Then into that space right there, we're going to put 2 more double crochets. So that chain 3 did count as a stitch. And then we chain 1, then go to our next space between our chain 1 space, and we're going to put 3 double crochets into there. And then chain 1, and we're just going to work all the way up the side here. And then once we get to where our seams meet, go ahead and do our 3 double crochets into the 1, and then do a chain 1, and then into the next little chain 1 space, we're going to do 3 more double crochets. And then chain 1 in between each cluster. So what this is just kind of bringing it all together so it creates nice and neat into there. I have tried several times trying to shrink that down. It doesn't really always work, so we're just going to go that way, and we're going to continue this all the way around the entire border for the opening front of our cardigan. And once we get to the other side, I'll show you how to finish up that side and begin the next row. All right, so here we are. This is the very tip top of our cardigan where the back meets the 2 sides for the open front. Now we worked up the side all the way like we had been going. But now we've got the space where basically 4 corners are coming together, but one side is opened. So I worked up the side, did our 3 double crochets into this last little side of the square. Now because this is building the collar and we want it to kind of be able to lay flat, like if we fold it down. So, and then we did our chain 1. Now what we're going to do is, this isn't really a chain space, both chains have been used, but we're going to go into just the little pieces between there, and we're going to put 3 double crochets. So here's the seam holding those 2 together, and right between those treble crochets. So we're going to put 3 double crochets there. And then our chain 1. Then we're going to come over right into where our next little space is. This is the center seam coming up the back. And we're going to put 3 double crochets into here. And then our chain 1. And then working down the last side right into here. So this will be the left hand side of the front of our cardigan. Gonna put our 3 double crochets into there. And then our chain 1, and we'll just continue down the rest of this side the same as we worked up the other side. And just to show you, this makes it so you can easily fold back. So it makes a nice better seam to open up following the curve around the neck for you. So here we are at the very end. So what we're gonna do is, just like we had finished here, we did our chain 1, and then we're going to do 3 double crochets right into that last space. Okay. Now that would be row 1 for those little repeats. Now row 2, we're going to chain 3. But for this, we're going to do a chain 4. So basically the 3 is like a post bringing it up, and then chain 1 would be that chain space where we're going to start the row afterwards. And then we'll turn our work. And then from here, we're just gonna, just like, regular working the granny stitch, we're gonna skip over all of this and then put 3 double crochets into the next space. Chain 1, go to the next space, 3 double crochets. Chain 1, and we're just going to keep working just like that, 3 double crochets into each chain 1 space, and then a chain 1 all the way around the entire opening for the front of our cardigan. So here we are at the end of the second row. So we did into our last chain 1 space, we did our 3 double crochets, then we chain 1, and like at the beginning we did a chain 4. Well, that first chain 3 of that 4 was a chain 1 space and a double crochet. So we did our chain 1, and now into that from the first row, that third chain of our first chain 3 of round 1, we're going to put 1 double crochet into there for the end of round 2. And there we are for the end of the second round. And then to begin our third round, we just chain 3, which is going to count as a double crochet, and then we'll put 2 more double crochets into that first chain 1 space. And then chain 1, and then our 3 double crochets and a chain 1 into each, going all the way around. So essentially we're just repeating row 1 and then row 2, and you do this as many times as you'd like for the collar to be, although we're going to end on a repeat of row 1 for that. So go ahead and do as many repeats as you feel is necessary for your specific one. So here we are at the very end. I ended up doing a total of 5 rows of the straight granny stitch for along the opening side of the cardigan. Now last step is just simply to weave in all of the ends. One thing I very much love about using this stitch, especially with the opening, that then say you want to put buttons onto it to help keep it closed, you can easily sew a button onto one of these little granny stitches and pick one that's, you know, kind of oversized large, and then will still fit right through because yes, it stretches a bit, and you can easily attach to button close your cardigan if you wish. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to give it a little thumbs up like, and if you have yet to subscribe, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and the notification bell next to it, and you can get a heads up every time I post a new video. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.